What seems harmless but is incredibly dangerous? Oil painting in a closed studio. Riptide in 4 feet waves. My friend drowned at the beach from a sneaker set. Terrible. Having a loose animal in the car. A safety instructor once told me doctors had to dig dog bones out of a person after it got between them and an airbag. Pool covers. It's like being wrapped in a bedsheet underwater. You cannot get free and you cannot scream for help. Once you're in, the only way to get out is to be incredibly lucky and get free, or have faith that someone saw or heard you fall in and hope that they get you in time. It's a lengthy, terrifying death that's completely avoidable. Nurse. I had a teenage girl come from home economics class. She was sewing and had a pin between her lips. I mean, who hasn't done that? She sucked it in and it got lodged in her throat. While waiting for a scope, she felt it dislodge and went deep into her main bronchial. She required major surgery. Had a young boy running with a toothbrush in his mouth. Got jammed way deep. Almost hit a major artery. Walking along the train tracks. It's crazy how fast millions of pounds of freight can sneak up on you. Kids picking flowers in the park. I am a conservation technician for a county park system. At least once a year I have to stop parents with kids picking flowers off the trail because I see kids with either poison hemlock, one of the deadliest plants if ingesting even a tiny amount, or wild parsnip, which can cause some serious permanent scarring, burns, and boils if the sap gets onto your skin and is exposed to sunlight. Don't let your kids pick or eat anything you aren't 100% sure of. Having a small snack before a medical procedure that requires anesthesia. Intubation can cause you to throw up your food and you can choke. Oceanside cliff blow holes. People think they're so much fun to stand around and play with. You fall into one of those things. You aren't getting out. The waves will just bludgeon you against the rocks until you die, or you're lucky enough to drown first. Mandolin slicer. Use the handguard, or lose a thumb. Confined spaces. Above ground or worse. Below the surface. If you do urban exploration, caving, or anything like that, get a 4 gas detector, clip it to your chest or belt, and set the alarm to max. If it makes a sound, get the frock out or you are going to die. Walking off the boardwalks at Yellowstone. They have several signs pressing that even though the ground may look normal in those areas, it could be really thin. I've seen people do it anyway. Looks safe. There's that Peppa Pig episode about spiders. Teaching UK kids that they are nice and friendly, and that episode is banned in Australia. So there you go. Here's my answer. Peppa Pig episodes. Eating raw or undercooked kidney beans can make you very sick or even kill you. It only takes like 3 undercooked kidney beans to ruin your day. Weirdly specific, but leaking hydraulic fluid from a small crack in a pressurized manifold. It doesn't shoot out like a gas would. Instead looks like droplets. But if you put your thumb over it, it shoots toxic hydraulic fluid into your bloodstream. Cat scratch fever. Yeah, the song is pretty cool, but that's about it. A stray cat scratched my dad one time and fucked his sit up. Not changing the tires on your car. Someone back me up on this. You can't just drive around with the same tires on forever. Eventually you'll end up doing donuts in the middle of a wet interstate because your back tires lost traction. Texting coworkers after you've been drinking. Garage door springs. People don't realize just how much tension those things are actually under. Never repair a garage door yourself unless you know exactly what you're doing. The stored energy in them is enough to break bones and sever limbs. Garage door springs. I DIY a lot of things, but after reading about door springs I'll let the professionals handle it. Over-the-counter medicines. Just because you can get something without a prescription does not mean it's safe in all cases or in high doses. Jumping on a trampoline. Lint. Too much lint in a dryer can cause a fire. Gotta clean that stuff out on the regular. Giving grapes to dogs. They're quite toxic. Pushing someone's face into a cake as a joke. Some cakes have little wooden spikes inside to support the cake. Saw a post where a girl's face was gored by one of these. Cleaning ammonia with bleach. This thread. It's making me not want to leave the house ever again. Putting your feet up on the dash while riding as a passenger in a moving car. You do not want to see post-accident photos of what happens when someone is in that posture in a surprise head-on collision. Silence in a house with toddlers. Cat bites. Cat fangs puncture deep and trap bacteria deep within your tissue, leading to horrible infections. You might think one isn't serious because it's not bleeding much, but that just means the wound isn't flushing properly. If you get seriously bitten by a cat, it's very important to go to urgent care so they can properly disinfect the wound. The cinnamon challenge. That was all the rage a few years back. When aspirated, it can cause severe burns on mask passages and airways. Edit. Nasal. Not mask. But it kind of worked anyway. Climbing a ladder. It doesn't even have to be a big ladder. Even one of those two-step ladders are incredibly dangerous. One ill-placed step can change your entire life. Hanging around idiots. Most of the time they only do dumb shit that affects themselves, but when they do something that affects you, it can change your whole life. So just remember, if you're in with a group of imbeciles, you're rolling the dice with your life every second. It's like standing in low-grade radiation. It's unnoticeable right up until it's incurable. Throwing your friend in the pool. Petting someone's dog without asking. Pushing people over as a prank. Well, cows seem pretty harmless, but these guys aren't to be underestimated. I got attacked by a mother one for getting a bit too close to the calf. I was lucky the horns were specifically made to be round, otherwise I would have lived with one kidney from then on, since it rammed into my kidney, but not hard enough to damage, thankfully. Still hurt like hell after though. Small cuts you get when doing marine stuff. If you are diving, snorkeling at a coral reef and lightly scrape yourself on some coral, for the love of God, disinfect the living shit out of that, no matter how mild it looks. The bacteria on coral will literally eat your leg off. Having small cuts on your hand while handling stuff like diatomaceous earth or sea sponges can cause tiny glass spines to enter your bloodstream and poke tiny holes in all those blood highways running through you. While this is a bit of a he said she said story, my professor apparently had a student hospitalized and die due to massive internal bleeding issues from handling this shit day after day. Ladders. Those things will frock you up if you don't use them properly. Riding a horse. Sports gambling apps. Texting while driving. You might think this is obvious, but I see many people texting and driving every day. Not cool and definitely not safe. Walking up and down house stairs. Water in general, but fast-moving water specifically. 2 or 3 inches of water is all that's needed to sweep you off of your feet if it's moving fast. 12 inches of water will lift and sweep away a car. Water is heavy and will frock you up if you don't respect it. Those black foodstuffs with charcoal in them. Charcoal interacts with a bunch of medications, gets in the way of nutrient absorption, and can really upset your digestive tract. Silicon chips. Very safe in the finished product form, but dear God, the chemicals involved are dangerous. One component in production is pure hydrogen and it is the safest one. Another is trichlorosilane. Its auto-ignite temp is approximately 40 Fahrenheit. It's combustible on contact with moisture, which includes humidity. When it mixes with water and doesn't manage to explode, its temperature skyrockets and the byproduct is hydrochloric acid. I learned this while working in a polysilicon factory when they dumped it on my crew from an empty vessel. An unloaded gun, or even worse, an unloaded gun. There is a reason as to why gun instructors always tell you to treat every firearm as if it was loaded. Inhaling helium. For kids. Someone online with a sympathetic ear for their problems. Responsible adults will try to put you in touch with real-life help. Not encourage a pattern of reliance and inappropriate intimacy. Bonus danger points on anyone who throws down. You're really mature for your age. Predators online work just like real-life hunting predators. Their first goal is to separate you from your herd. Plutonium. If no one told you what it was, you'd think it was just a random piece of metal. Letting water from a fresh water source up your nose. Most of the time it will be fine. But every once in a while you'll get a brain-eating amoeba that has a 99.9% fatality rate. This is in the US as well. Following too closely in your car. Not just tailgating, but even following 50+ feet behind in fast traffic. Next time you're in your car, wait for the car in front of you to pass a clear marker like an exit sign or a bridge. Then count the seconds until you reach this marker. This is the amount of time you have to react, and potentially save your own life. In an emergency, I always shoot for 3 seconds, which is about 20 car lengths in 70 miles per hour traffic. For people who follow a 3 car lengths rule, you have about 4 seconds to react in the same situation, and I'm not that quick under pressure. Just closing your eyes for a few more minutes after cutting your alarm off. I have to either get up or hit the snooze button, or I'm going to be out for hours. Lol. A child. Alone they may not seem like much, but in groups they can cause mass havoc. This entire thread is making me very anxious. All the comments here have made me not want to touch myself, others, or leave the house. Driving when sleepy. My floor when I have socks. Too much quick dopamine instant pleasure. When you rely on it, it's not fun. Because eventually those highs wear off and you're left with an even worse depression or state of mind. Caterpillars. Some of those fuzzy bastards can cause some serious damage. Taking pictures of bears. Apparently it looks harmless to people in Yellowstone. Bears are faster than many expect, especially uphill, so if you are ever near a bear and want a picture, stay in your car to do it. Taking more Tylenol than suggested. The gun you think is unloaded. Escalators. Cute little palm-sized octopi with cute little blue rings on it. Edit. Many people are saying octopi is incorrect. It's registered in the Cambridge Dictionary as a plural form. Dictionary, Cambridge. Org. Dictionary, English, octopus. Q equals octopi. But then again, so is the word ain't. Unprotected 6. Social media. I read a study recently on a rare disorder called Eagles syndrome. A little bone at the base of your skull gets too long. There were about 30 cases in the US last year where someone was talking on their phone, dancing, just looking up and pointing at something, and that little bone was long enough to sever their internal carotid artery. Weird to think someone's body just tried to end it all for looking up. Dull knives. Dull knives are far more likely to cause an incident compared to a sharp one. Reddit. I was a normal, well-adjusted person until I tried it. Now look at me. Starting a car in a closed garage. Edit. Closed, not close. Being conflict avoidant. People think they are trying to keep the peace by not causing friction. But when you don't have healthy conflict, boundaries get run over. You get burnt out. You feel unheard or taken advantage of, and on a higher level, terrible people get into and keep positions of power and oppression when people opt to stay silent rather than challenge the status quo for the sake of pseudo-unity. Feeding wildlife. Even if it seems safe for yourself to do so, it's probably very dangerous for the animal you feed. It's very likely that feeding a wild animal may lead to its death. Amateur mental health advice. Everyone is an armchair psychologist these days, and that creates problems. Diagnosing and treating mental illness is actually incredibly complex. There's a reason we make people study for so many years before we call them experts. If a friend comes to you complaining about a serious mental health condition like depression, suicide, anxiety, etc., your first advice should always be, see an expert. It's way easier than you think to give negligent advice that can make the problem worse. Instead, be a listener. Chances are nothing you say can fix your friend's mental health issue. It's far more helpful to be a sympathetic ear than to give potentially negligent advice. Hippos look like goofy, cute, friendly animals, but they are among the most dangerous animals that you could ever encounter. They are the one animal that even Steve Irwin was afraid of and wouldn't go near. Jumping across the Bolton Strid, a waterway that appears as a stream, but is actually a sort of sideways river, with an extremely strong current. Stone fish, camouflage fish, very painful venom, cone snail, orange-white cone-shaped shell that often looks attractive and enticing, until you pick it up. Edit. Wow, this blew up in only a couple of hours. Thanks for all the likes. I found your stories so interesting. You can learn about other deadly creatures like these on Nature's Deadliest. National Geographic. Another edit. Wow, thanks for the award. Answering a seemingly innocent, just wanted to see how you are doing, text from someone who is bad for your mental health. Canada Goose. Cobra chickens don't take shit from anyone. Microtransactions in video games. Gateway gambling with predatory methods. Falling asleep with a baby on you or in your bed. Walking around with a pen in your mouth.